Hey everyone, this is Ben with the Leyline Network. Today I'm bringing to you Battle for Zendikar Budget Block Deck Tech. The deck is Green Eldrazi. It only costs 2.5 ticks to get on Magic Online and $13.50 to buy in paper. The prices will be listed under each card according to MTGO traders and TCG player. Without further ado, let's jump in. Strategy is pretty straightforward. Ramp into big creatures, then smash face. At the bottom of the curve is Ruin in Their Wake and Hedron Crawler. Ruin in Their Wake does have the drawback that if you don't have a waste in play, you have to put the land into your hand instead of on the battlefield, but that's not a very common occurrence. The ideal opening hand will allow you to cast one of these on turn 2 and Hedron Archive on turn 3. Hedron Archive is an all-star in this deck. It ramps you early game, then refuels your hand late game so you don't run out of steam. Kozilek's Channeler is another card that does double duty in this deck. He's a 4/4 beater with the added benefit to let you ramp into your bigger creatures early on. The last piece of ramp is Blighted Woodland. You pay 3 and a green, then tap and sacrifice it, then you search your library for 2 basic lands, put them into play tapped. I'll use this if I don't have anything else, but usually I'll wait until later in the game when my deck needs thinning and I'm about to crack my Hedron Archives. The rest of the lands in the deck are pretty straightforward. 4 Evolving Wilds to make your mana more consistent, 10 Wastes, and 6 Forests. Let's move on to the main threats. Walker of the Wastes will at least be a 6/6 when you cast it, and will only get bigger from there. Also, if you already have a forest early on, just fetch for wastes, because you don't need much green to run the deck, and the more waste you have, the bigger your walker gets. Bane of Bala Ged is a threat that must be dealt with, or it gets out of hand quickly. Whenever Bane of Bala Ged attacks, your opponent must choose 2 of their permanents, then exile them. Mind you, this is before they even block. And let me tell you what, it adds up quickly. At the top of the curve is Breaker of Armies. He's a huge creature that forces all of your opponent's creatures to block him when able. This really helps get through damage with your other creature and annihilates your opponent's board state. Lastly is our removal. This isn't a fast deck, and sometimes you need a way to slow down your opponent while you work on getting out your creatures. Titan's Presence and Spatial Contortion help get rid of most creatures that are causing you trouble. And one of my favorite tricks with Spatial Contortion is to cast it on one of my own creatures that haven't been blocked to sneak through a last bit of damage. Alright, sideboard time. Natural State is good to bring in against decks that rely on artifacts and enchantments like the Retreats. It's especially nice to save your creatures from a stasis snare. Warping Wail is in the sideboard primarily for its first 2 modes, the countering of sorceries and the exiling of a creature with power or toughness of 1. This deck can have trouble with fast and aggressive decks. Jaddi Offshoot is perfect to slow those decks down, and not only is it great for a blocker, the life it provides you can often be the difference between winning and losing against those aggressive decks. Pulse of Murasa also can help you out because of the life gain it gives you, but it's also useful against decks that are very removal heavy. Alright, I have a couple of honorable mentions. First one is Retreat to Kazandu. It has a similar role to Jaddi Offshoot, except it costs more mana. It gains you twice as much life, and that adds up fast. Unfortunately, it can't block creatures like Jaddi Offshoot can. Usually I'm going to be wanting to cast my ramp spells around the time I'm able to cast Retreat to Kazandu. Kozilek's Pathfinder is a card I seriously considered putting in the deck for its casting cost and evasion, but in the end I liked that Breaker of Armies could destroy my opponent's board state and force through damage for my other creatures. Either way, they're both great options for the deck. I've been testing this deck out in Standard. It's been a lot of fun to play, and it does very well against other homebrew decks. That being said, it doesn't do very well against the top tier decks. Either way, it's worth taking to your Friday Night Magic or trying out online. Let me know what you think about the deck. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you want more content like this, go ahead and subscribe. This has been Ben with the Leyline Network, signing off.